Some states may be forced to close their SNAP programs. Let me explain. I'm Kira, a former government employee, and I help explain how it works. Last year's budget bill from Congress made a new rule that charges a financial penalty to states if the amount that they give someone on SNAP is wrong too often. It's called the payment error rate. If the state gave money to someone who actually wasn't eligible, or they gave an eligible person either too much or too little money, it counts as an error. In theory, this might sound like a good idea. Wouldn't a penalty incentivize states to get it right? But in practice, it's a totally different story. The bill picked 6% as the line. So if a state has an error rate of 6% or lower, nothing happens. But if they have an error rate higher than 6%, they owe a penalty back to the federal government. Take a guess at how many states had a payment error rate above 6% in 2024. It's 42 out of the 50 states. Now, what's worse, these penalty payments are staggering. The amount that a state owes is a percentage of how much money they gave out for SNAP, but that percentage gets higher as their payment error rate gets higher. For example, Missouri, which has an error rate of 9%, would have to pay 10% of all of their SNAP dollars, which is about 150 million. New Jersey would have to pay a 15% penalty, which is $290 million. And California, which serves over 5 million people on SNAP, would also have to pay a 15% penalty, which totals to $1.9 billion. Now, here's the kicker. The bill also changes how much money the federal government gives a state to run their program. The federal government used to pay for 50% of a state's administrative costs, but now that's dropped down to 25%. So states have to change their programs to meet the new rules on who's eligible, and they have to dramatically lower their payment error rates to avoid major penalties, all with a lot less money for staff or technology systems. Now, there's two big things that worry me the most. The first is that states are penalized for giving someone the wrong amount, but not for denying benefits to someone who's later found to be eligible. So if a state really needs to keep their error rate below 6%, they might be incentivized to make a lot more denials, just to not risk giving someone the wrong amount. The second thing that worries me is where all this money is supposed to come from. It's going to be a lot more expensive for states to run SNAP programs, both because they're getting less money from the federal government for administrative costs and because of the risk of these payment error rate penalties. In response to the bill, a letter signed by 23 governors last summer said this: the idea that states will be able to respond to these massive cuts by backfilling with state resources is unrealistic. If states cannot meet the full cost share, they will need to cut SNAP enrollment or end their program entirely. In the next video, I'll talk about what you should do if you're disenrolled in SNAP.